Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Chief Secretary, Kelvin Charles, addresses the media.
You may be aware that I would have, on a previous occasion, indicated that we were introducing into the primary school an instructional program, coaches program, in the areas of mathematics and reading. We did an assessment on the 13th of March where we tested or assessed standards 1, 2, and 3. A total of 2,878 students were tested. The scripts for standards 3 as in the final stages have been marked, but preliminary assessments are available for standards 1 and 2. Now, the objectives of the test were as follows. 1, to assess the proficiencies of students in the areas of literacy and numeracy, to gather data on student academic performance in those areas, and critical, of course, was to provide feedback to school personnel on students' performance in these areas, and therefore to be positioned to facilitate efficient planning for the diverse instructional needs of our students within the classroom. The preliminary report suggests that students in standards 1 and 2 are performing better in mathematics than in language arts. In respect of language arts, about 70% of our students are struggling with spelling and dictation. And of course, this we'll have to address. Areas of capitalization and pronunciation turned out to be weak areas. So, for example, students would put a capital H on the word head, which, as you know, it's a common noun. And many common sight words were not known. So you begin to understand the value of this exercise, because it means we can diagnose some of the challenges our students have early and move quickly to remediate them, rather than to wait until 9 years. And when they get into secondary schools, we now have to seek to remediate. Now, in respect of mathematics in particular, the aim of the assessment was to establish a Tobago baseline, so to speak, in mathematics, from which we can draw inferences for present and future performances. And the correction of these tests has in fact revealed some interesting findings. Now, above 95% of the student population of Tobago in standards 1 and 2 did the tests. About 15% of the students scored above 80% of the marks. (80% of the students scored between 60 and 80%. And 5% performed below that standard. Again, as I said, in respect of language arts, it means that once we identify these challenges in standards 1 and 2, and of course in standard 3, we can move to correct these deficiencies early. Because as you know, maths is not only conceptual, but it's also hierarchical. And if you do not have the basics, you're in trouble when you get further up. For example, you would not be able to do compound interest if you don't understand simple interest. So you understand the value of the strategy of re-engaging instructional coaches at the foundational level in our primary schools. I know that some persons were not happy when I decided to do that as an option, but we are beginning to see the fruits. Now, as you may be aware, on the 3rd of May 2018 will be the C exam, and 943 students in Tobago are expected to write that examination. 477 boys and 466 girls. What we are proposing to do when school commences next week until the 1st of May, outstanding achievers from different communities throughout Tobago will visit all primary schools to provide motivational support to our students. It's part of our psychological assistance to these students. And the selected community achievers will focus on strategies to achieve success. These achievers will be selected from among academic scholarship winners, outstanding athletes, successful youth entrepreneurs, and youths in social and voluntary organizations. We are in the process of collating names of such persons who are willing to be part of the exercise. Next term as well, we'll see our students at the secondary level engage in CAPE examinations as well as CSEC examinations. We have 328 students who will be doing the CAPE exam and 865 who will be doing CSEC examination. Now I'm happy to announce that the Tobago Teachers Professional Center at Madden House will be officially opened on April the 24th, 2018. The center, as you may recall, is going to be a learning and activity center for the teachers of Tobago, and we will seek to promote and foster continuous enrichment for our teachers in a supportive environment. In short and in brief, the vision of the center is to inspire excellence and innovation in teaching through the support of best practices that promote engaged and effective learning for all students. Now, the center, whilst it is not yet formally opened, is already in use because we have had sessions involving our early childhood educators at that center. The center will provide support in respect of technology, team building activities, educational activities through workshops, sharing experiences and best practices, seminars, retreats, etc. Now, one of the projects that is currently being coordinated by the center is a Chromebook pilot program. And that is a program intended to facilitate students' improvement in reading, because I would have just indicated that our students in standards 1 and 2 were performing better in mathematics than in reading. But we would have known that we were having some reading challenges before. I would have spoken to you about that last year when we engaged a number of those students who got under 30% in the C examination, and we had to do a program for them in the vacation period. Now, it's a pilot program, and it's operating right now in 2 schools, Hope Anglican and Scarborough Methodist. Interestingly, it's a collaborative effort between the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy and a Tobagonian who resides abroad. In the name of Dr. Brian Yearwood, he attended the Scarborough Methodist Primary School as a child, and you probably could understand why that is one of the schools that would have been selected as a pilot school. Now, the Chromebook exercise or program really involves the use of laptops, and there are 2 software programs that are being utilized. One is called a Mind Play, and the other is Mayon. Now, what is interesting is that the Mind Play, as a web-based reading program, is one that delivers one-to-one personalized systematic reading instruction. So it's an individualized instructional program. And through a series of quick assessments, the program determines what a child knows and does not know. Then it creates a personalized learning plan to quickly fill in the missing skills. And you could begin to appreciate the importance of this mechanism or this piece of technology in education, particularly in reading, because it means the child can have its individual needs addressed. As you know, either from your own experiences or from the experiences of your child, at this time, what one does as a teacher is generally teach midstream. And in that approach, some students are likely to fall through the cracks. And therefore, what this does, it allows for those students their individual needs to be addressed, so that the child only learns what he or she doesn't already know. And the lessons are indeed taught by virtual reading teachers who coach the child through each lesson until mastery is achieved. Now, we are hoping, because so far the program seems to be going quite well, the teachers are getting attuned to it, and so are the students, and preliminary assessments suggest that there is an improvement in the learning and reading ability of these students. The plan is, once these pilot schools demonstrate the requisite success, we will seek to roll out the programs in other schools that we think are desirous, meaning in terms of the capability of the students of having these programs. Now, the MyOn program will be used at the start of the new school term, and it is really designed for further literacy improvement. The child is exposed to a larger collection of digitized and digital books, and this program also develops the individual profile of the child and allows the child to progress over time as the child's reading competencies improve. One of the challenges that we do have is that students are not always reading at their developmental level. And the worst thing you can have is a situation where students read at frustration level and enter secondary school. One of the worst things that we can have. So we are determined to ensure that we tackle this head on and minimize this situation. Now, so we have that, and in addition to that, we are going to introduce, by way, first of all, of teaching, coaching or training for some of our teachers, a new program, and again, this will be facilitated through the Teachers Development Center. It's called Literacy Development Through Art. As you may be aware, that one of the requirements of the primary school curriculum rewrite is that teaching ought to be integrated, meaning that every lesson, whether it's you're doing maths or reading or social studies or science, it should be integrated so that you pull all the relevant facets relative to that topic from the various disciplines in your presentation to the child or to the children. What we are saying now is that we think that art, the creative arts, is an excellent medium through which students express themselves. Those of you who may have been fortunate to see the display of those students last year, the under 30%, at the library would have seen their expressions in art. Whilst they could not read well and were reading, I said, below their developmental level, they were expressing themselves in art. And we're saying this provides an excellent opportunity to use art as a basis to enhance the literacy program in our schools. So that's another strategy. So you begin to understand ladies and gentlemen of the media, that we are using a variety of strategies, all designed to meet the needs of our students. Because as you know, there is a theory that we have what you call multiple intelligences. But even before that, we who would have been involved in the process of education would have known that students learn through different sensory media. So we are bringing that knowledge to bear on the range of strategies that we are employing in our primary school education curriculum, the delivery of that curriculum. Another program that we have been utilizing so far with good success as well, and we're going to extend this as well, is the Jolly Phonics program. You may have heard about it, but it's a program which involves the use of fun approaches to teach students to read. Phonics are presented to students through music, rhythm, and songs that generate interest and motivation to read. We have 10 schools involved in this program, and principals of 9 of these schools have reported that the students of first and second years, and these are the levels that we have been doing the experiment, if you wish, or the pilot program, or these are our target groups. They are reading at, and in some cases, above their grade levels. So good things are happening in our primary schools. I wish to place on record as well that I would have met with representatives of TTUTA last month, and we would have agreed on certain aspects of the agenda we looked at. But in any case, yesterday there was a meeting between the division and the Teaching Service Commission. And I'm happy to report that that collaboration would have begun to address a number of outstanding issues. And in fact, those issues relate, among other things, to transfers and appointments of teachers, acting, temporary, and permanent appointments. You know, these things are sometimes outstanding for long periods. But of course, these are matters that fall directly under the purview of the Teaching Service Commission. And what we can do is to nudge and attempt to persuade and provide raw information so that the Commission can do its work. Recruitment of teachers is another matter that was discussed. A third matter that was discussed was the possibility of a Teaching Service Commission desk at the Service Commission office in Tobago. We were able to establish some arrangements and some timelines for some of these issues. One, we would have agreed that ongoing discussions between the HR officers at the division and the HR officers at the Department of the Teaching Service Commission would follow through the matters that were identified yesterday until they are completed. So in other words, there is a resolve to work through those matters until they're resolved. One of the challenges I would have observed in the past is that they start on a matter and somehow somebody gets distracted and that matter seems to be relegated. We have also agreed that HR officers of the Commission will visit Tobago on the second Wednesday of each month to clarify and resolve issues that cannot be dealt with through media communication. So we have established that the second Wednesday of every month, personnel will be here. Once every 3 months, strategy meetings with the executive director of the commission and HR advisors and so on will meet. That is between the Teaching Service Commission and the Division of Education to work through modalities in respect of ensuring that issues are resolved, but more than that, that we become more and more proactive in treating with a number of the challenges. The Teaching Service Commission has pledged that Tobago matters will be placed on the front burner for speedy resolution. So we would have to ensure that, in fact, we hold them to that. We have also set an optimistic timeline that within 6 months, the long outstanding matters should all be resolved. And of course, we have undertaken as the division to find accommodation for officers from Trinidad so that they can be housed in Tobago for longer periods. So in other words, we are hoping that when they come, once we could find accommodation, instead of staying 1 day and go back the same day, they can stay 2 days, as the case might be, which would allow for a greater presence here and more time to facilitate resolution of issues. I would have also, on a previous occasion, spoken to you about a training initiative under the auspices of the Division of Education. And that training program would have involved the use of the Roxborough Trade Center, where we were seeking to have persons with informal training skills be formally certified by the National Training Agency. The program is in its 3rd month. Unfortunately, there were only 29 persons, which really was an untenable situation, who took up the offers, because there were 60 places available. 60 places available, and only 29 persons responded, which is something that we have to treat with, both those of us who are in government and those of you who are in the media, because we have a responsibility to empower our people, and when opportunities are created, we would want to know that our persons avail themselves of such opportunities. You and I know if we want a plumber or we want a carpenter, we go and we look for somebody and we hope that the person is properly recommended. But more often than not, sometimes we get our work, we get shoddy work, and then we complain. We are saying that as we seek to develop this place, we want to make sure that our craftsmen, our skilled personnel and so on can stand shoulder to shoulder, toe to toe with others, whether it's in Trinidad, regional or international. And I'm saying part of that process must involve you must be able to demonstrate by way of some kind of certification from an accredited institution that you possess not only the theoretical competencies, but the practical competencies as well. So we have some work to do as we talk to our brothers, our sisters, our uncles, our aunts, our nephews, and so on. But I'm happy to report that within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks for the max, there should be an assessment done so that those who are enrolled in the level 1 certificate program should be able to be certified and to move on to level 2 certification. Now, level 1 program was designed to take 3 months, level 2, 6 months, and level 3, 9 months. Now that is, we started at Roxborough simply because they had the facility existing, and what we had to do was some quick renovations and so on, and an adjustment to get that program good to going. We are hoping that over the next 2 to 3 months, we'll be able to engage those who live in the West with a similar program. Unfortunately, in the short term, we probably will have to use some of our community centers, 1 or 2 of our community centers, to facilitate the program, because we do not have, at this time, a trade center in the West. There used to be one at Bonaccord, which would have been converted to something else.
Could I just ask what happens to the students who would have already gone through the primary school system and they have made it through to the secondary school system? Do we have a program for them to assist them with their reading and perhaps with mathematical problems?
There is a joint effort right now with some of those youth centers under the auspices of the Division of Sports and Youth Affairs and so on. In certain communities, I can refer to the one at Signal Hill, for example, where there is an outreach program that treats with some of these students. As a matter of fact, I am aware, as a temporary measure, that students who face suspension are attending those centers and are being provided with the assistance they require. And we did that as a temporary program until we fully sort out, both at the level of policy and where we could find an actual centralized place for some of these students, especially those who have been suspended, where they could go through a more rigorous program. So that is what we're doing at this time.
Is it a safeguard to ensure that they don't pass through the secondary school system and not be able to, communicate well and to relate to?
Yes, but it's a Herculean task because of what would have been happening over the years. But the intervention has begun, and it will be accelerated. You may recall that I would have indicated that even in respect of the cohort of under 30 that we would have sent to two schools, Roxborough and Signal Hill, I had mandated the student support services to follow these students because we want to make sure that we don't lose them. In addition to that, we would have, I had mentioned it here, agreed to work with the police in respect of their youth groups, police youth groups, and we would have since furnished the police service with the list of those students so that they can be encouraged to join police youth clubs in their respective areas as part of the whole approach to providing a supportive environment for them to grow and to blossom and to experience success.
Are you expecting a report back in regards to those who would have been sent to Roxborough and Signal Hill?
Actually, it's a situation that I'm monitoring as we speak, because the truth be told, there have been some positives and there have been some situations that we have to manage. For example, in Signal Hill, for example, I have been advised that there are about 10 students who are ready to transition to a more mainstream curriculum. Now, I've been so advised. I don't know that I'm yet fully persuaded, but I've been so advised by curriculum and so on. Now, to the extent that this is accurate, to that extent it speaks to the value of the program. Because if after 2 terms, you can get some students, because 10 would represent about 25%, ready, not even after a whole year, to transition to the mainstream program, it does, as I say, speak to the value of the intervention. One of the challenges I understand is that some of the students, once they leave their homeroom and have to attend classes, let's say in art or PE, you have to go looking for them. So that we now have to move to treat with that kind of situation, because left unchecked, it can result in truancy and therefore limit the success of the enterprise or the initiative.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending April 14th, 2018.